Hi, guys. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. We are on episode 45, which is actually a continuum of 44 because this is boundaries part 2, what's healthy, what's not. But in 44, we talked about boundaries, what boundaries are, why they are important. This was such a big topic. It merited a little further discussion. So today we want to talk about what healthy boundaries look like. And again, for those of you that are listening, see if you can relate to what these are. And you can even let us know what your experience has been. But first of all, before we get started, I have to say hello to my lovely partner, Jamie. How's it going?
Hello, good to see you. Happy to be here always. Happy
Yeah,
to be talking about this topic. It is such an important topic, and I love that we broke it into 2 episodes. Great idea.
I know. I mean, we could probably almost do 3 episodes, but we won't. So today, here's what healthy boundaries are. I'm just going to start in and talk about what these are. And the first one is thoughtfully evaluating benefits and drawbacks of having a relationship with someone. Unfortunately, I have had to reevaluate in my lifetime if a relationship serves me or not, even within my own family. That is real life, guys. We may be in a situation where we are responsible for someone, but that doesn't mean the relationship is great. So you're left negotiating how to handle that. And so I have found myself just minimizing contact is the best solution for me while fulfilling obligations. Jamie actually taught me something that was very eye-opening and helpful about, I'm going to call it the bullseye method, and I'm going to let her expound on this if I miss something here. But basically, we can just move someone to an outer circle if necessary and move. What I really loved what she said is that leaves room for moving safer people into those inner circles around to maybe fulfill some of those needs that we have. And then after that, shuffling people in their circles, then we just work on acceptance. That's part of, again, real life. And you can't control everything, but you can control acceptance and stop being surprised by other people's behaviors. So
Yeah.
did I get that right? Anything you want to tweak on what I said?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I want to take away is what want folks to take away from this explanation is this whole idea of, the concentric circle or bullseye imagery. And think of that as, this the center of the bullseye is the people, maybe the spiritual practices that are closest to us. And that would be again, the folks that have unfettered access to us, the ones that we, share all of our inner life with. And it might really just be one person or 2 people. And then if you have a spiritual practice or whatever that spiritual connection you have, for me, it's God. God is in the center of my circle, and my husband is just outside of that. And then I think about, as the circles build outward, all of the folks are family, friends, coworkers, people in my, from my past that I don't talk to regularly. They, at one point, let's say my best friend from high school, at one point, she was very close to that center circle. And now, it's been years, and life happens, and I still think very highly of her. I wish nothing for her but the best, and I genuinely enjoy talking to her when we connect, but we don't connect every day anymore.
Yeah.
So she's in an outer circle.
Yeah.
And people move around. This is something that was taught to me a few years ago, and I really started to employ it because I kind of was a child about thinking everyone needed to be in my inner circle. I didn't have good boundaries. And this visual imagery allowed me to think about, okay, this person used to be very close. They used to be on a I have had family members that used to be on a very, very they were very close to my inner circle. I shared a lot with them. And they showed up in ways that were emotionally, when Paige, you said something about, safety, it's emotional safety, right? I mean, hopefully we don't have anybody close to us that's not physically safe.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm glad you.
Yeah. So emotional safety But was that, is that person emotionally safe? And if they're not, we've got to move them to an outer circle. And I've had to do that with some family members, as well as some other folks in my life. And it's just part of life, part of growing up, and part of being an adult. So
Oh, shoot.
yeah,
That is
right. I
thing.
know.
It
I
keeps
know.
coming up.
I know.
Uh,
So for me, yeah, so you got it, you right on, Paige, in your explanation. And it really was a game changer in helping me set boundaries and remember, okay, is this person, are they like third circle in or first
mm,
circle in? And how do I act accordingly with them?
yeah, that was
Um,
for me too. Thank you.
yeah. And when I think about boundaries, healthy boundaries, for me, I'm always looking at it as how do they how do the way I act, the ways that I act, align to my personal values or beliefs?
Mhm.
And if I'm acting in a way that aligns to my values and beliefs, I'm going to feel congruent. I'm going to feel connected. I'm going to feel present and be able to be in a service minded capacity for others, because
Yes.
I'm not going to be looking to see what I could get. Right. I'm
Right.
going to be looking to see what I could give because I'm aligned. I'm in the flow.
Hmm.
Um, and let's say that others are pushing me to breach a boundary, to overextend myself, to give more than I'm ready to give, to do something I'm not comfortable doing. And I don't mean stepping outside my comfort zone in a way that grows me. I mean that I'm really not comfortable with, right? Emotionally comfortable or feeling safe about emotionally. Then yes, it's up to me to put those boundaries down. uh Around boundaries are, as we talked about in episode 1, they are designed and they're leveraged to protect us from ourselves.
Yeah.
They're not, we don't slap a boundary on someone. That's control. That's
Right.
not boundaries.
Right.
When and I say that because I did it. When I was first learning this, I did it. I was like, I'm putting it back. I would even say it. I'm putting a boundary on you. And I would give people in my life boundaries,
Yeah.
like Oprah gave out cars. Everyone got a boundary.
Yeah.
Everyone got a boundary. You get a boundary and you get a boundary. And I would tell them, you're getting a boundary. And it was a misunderstanding that I did not really grasp until a few years ago, that, okay, boundaries are not, other people never have to hear a word about me doing anything differently. It's me giving myself the best opportunity to keep myself aligned to my values, beliefs, and recovery goals.
Hmm. Beautiful. I love it. And I like, as you were saying that about, I'm putting a boundary on you, you, and you, then it's weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
weaponizing control.
Exactly.
Yeah. All
Yes.
right. I love that talk. Okay. The next one is saying no to gifts, favors, and actions that do not support your recovery. I don't know about you, but I definitely have food pushers in my life. And I have found that thinking this through before I am ever exposed to them is very helpful for me. Just visualizing what's going to happen, getting ready for it. So I now tell people that I've developed a sensitive tummy and I have to be very careful, which is not a lie, because
Right.
now after being off sugar and getting into it, that really throws a big wrench in my system. So usually that's enough to quiet somebody. If it's, I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see us, for medical reasons, that will usually quiet the conversation. And sometimes you are just in a position to say thank you to people for what their gift is, and then re-gift it to someone else, a plate of cookies. Like where I live, I can easily find a homeless person that is asking for food, and then it's serving both of us. I'm getting rid of it and it's helping someone who actually is truly hungry and just needing calories. So dropping it off fulfills both of our needs. So I'm just saying that having a plan in place before these situations arise is so helpful to my brain, so calming, and it keeps me in a place of strength. And on a side note, I was listening to a podcast about people pleasing. And if you feel the need that you have to eat Aunt Betty's cookies just so she won't be upset or that won't hurt her
Yeah.
feelings, this is a time to stop and take a look at that. If you fall into that category, you need to recognize that putting your needs first is always paramount. And at some point, if you think that's working by pleasing, it will backfire
Every
at the
time.
worst time in the worst inopportune way, and it's going to be ugly. So not only that, if you it ends up breeding resentment. That's why
Exactly.
the fireworks happen in the end, because you're not upset about that. You're upset about that and the 100 other things that you never spoke up for, which is not their fault. That's your fault. So
Exactly.
people pleasing is a dangerous place to be in. And quite frankly, if people truly love you, they're going to want the best for you.
Absolutely. Yes, people pleasing is truly, it's a dead end. It's a fool's errand. And I say this, guys, because I lived it. I lived it for years. I mean, that's what I did. It's, if I wasn't able to please people, I was eating food, right?
Ah,
Because people were my original drug of choice.
ah,
Because they, they could, I was taught at a very, very, very young age that they could make me feel better.
wow.
And if they didn't, or if I feel like I didn't earn something to be uh, receive their love or affection or attention, I went to the food. So when I pulled the food out of my processed food out, and I was no longer really, I was seeing the benefit of not seeking food for dopamine,
You're
right?
right.
Not seeking food for happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I sought it from people. I went back to my original sort of addiction,
Mm-hmm.
was to the attention, affection, validation from people.
Right.
And that people pleasing really spiked up for a second. And sure enough, I mean, I was reaching my own boundaries everywhere and thought it was all about others. I was
Mm-hmm.
sharing things. I was sharing things with people that I had no business sharing with. They had not earned my trust. I shared it with them, and then was outraged when they used things against me,
Right.
or they would bring up things or shared it with others, or I
Mm-hmm.
mean, outraged, and thought it was all the other people. I'm like, no, I had a boundary that I overlooked or didn't see the opportunity to put in place to keep myself safe
Yeah.
from me,
Mm-hmm.
not from me doing something that would harm me
Right.
via another person. But it's all starts and ends with us.
Yeah. School
So
of Knox really is a great teacher, ain't it? Unfortunately, you got a
painful.
PhD.
Yeah, exactly. I got a PhD, girl.
Dang it.
But yes, so I really feel like um really being clear about expressing what we need, not only to others, but also to ourselves first.
Free.
There is no way for us to people please, because it is really something that is an unquenchable thirst. We and if it might not bite us in the butt now,
Mm-hmm.
today, might not bite us in the butt tomorrow, but I promise you it will bite you in the butt at some point. If your goal is to people please and not to actually ask yourself what you need, assert those needs, and leave the rest up in the universe or God's hands, that's where it's at. Because we really truly cannot control other people, and people pleasing is an attempt to control other people.
Ooh, that's deep.
It
Very
really
deep.
is.
I love that. Love that connection there. That was huge.
Sure.
Thank you. So another one is treating yourself with respect and kindness. Jamie and I were in a conversation recently, and we were discussing being in a group of people that you love and care about, but clearly those people have their own addictions and demons that they are fighting with too. So as a result, oftentimes others in the room end up being hurt by their addictive behaviors. So Jamie was bringing up, in those unavoidable situations, which usually revolve around family, something you can do is hyper focus on having a talk with these inner parts of ourselves and asking yourself, what do you need right now?
Mhm.
Loving on those parts with all of your might, and just focusing on self-care and making sure that you are okay while you have to be in that environment. Again, did I get that one right? Do you want to expound on that anymore? Or you
I don't
did?
remember the specific situation we were talking about, Paige. I have to be honest. You said just being in a group of people that you love and care about clearly have their own addictions and demons. Was this around family dynamics?
Yes.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
you're set up to be in a situation with them. and other people have their own addictions that they're dealing with too. And ultimately, people in the room can get hurt from that. So what
Yes.
do you do about it? You just hyper focus on making sure you're okay.
Yes.
I've got this
There you go.
amount of time to deal with. What do I need right now to get through this, family celebration, whatever it is that you needed to show up for?
You nailed it. You nailed
Okay. Thank you.
it.
Flip, hair toss, guys. I hope that you're able to see that.
And I think one of the things that I learned is really of that act of it's detachment. It's really what that is detachment is saying,
Right.
hey, I am not able to this person's love, attention, affection do not make me more worthy.
Mhm.
It does not hit what I need it to hit. Only
Mhm.
I can give myself that love and worth and attention and validation.
Mhm.
Other people, they cannot give that to me. Truly, they can, but it's not as meaningful as my own.
Right.
So I love, you mentioned hyper focus on having talk with other inner parts. It's ideally it's giving ourselves first what we need and then giving to, so we can be in a place to give to others instead of coming from a half full or half empty place and then looking to others to give us something that we think we need to
Mhm.
feel full. But that's also a fool's errand. There really is nothing we can get from other people that we can't or shouldn't be manufacturing on our own for ourselves.
Right. That's right. I agree.
So I love this list a lot. And I guess talking about personal or some successful boundaries that we've placed in our lives. We've talked about so many different ways now with the last few minutes about ways that we can rethink what boundaries truly are. What boundaries have been important to you, Paige?
I think what really stands out for me is I have made many decisions to pass on social engagement. That's a boundary that I've put in my life that has actually been very helpful. I don't have to say yes to everything that I'm
Right.
invited to. Um, Things that are during the week and in the evening, I know I'm wobbly during that time. So I know in advance there's a big emphasis on food on all these gatherings, and that is not where I need to be. So I don't need to put myself in that position. And then I need to also work on feelings of avoiding FOMO or fear of missing out and switch it to that JOMO, joy of missing out.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel better that I'm missing out because I know I'm taking good care of myself. I like to stick to an early bedtime routine. And I know if I'm up late, then I can start having these food thoughts when I get tired. And it takes me a couple of hours to wind down in the evening. So I keep a very tight boundary around nighttime because, as I said, I know in advance that can be a wobbly area for me. So I'm basically a dullard and I wear it proudly. I love it. So the last one I want to share about as far as boundaries that I've put in place that are important to me is a couple of years ago, we went to this famous restaurant called the French Laundry in Napa
Uh-huh.
Valley. They serve a 13-course meal, and my husband had always wanted to go, and I wanted to support him in that. So
Mhm.
to be a good wife, I gladly accepted, but I called the restaurant ahead of time. I told him I had a sensitivity to sugar, which is not a lie. And
That's
you know
right.
what? They were happy to oblige, and everyone left happy that night. It was a
Mhm.
bit of struggle, me passing up some of my favorites at the end of the meal, but well worth the experience, and it didn't kill me not having sugar, and I still had a great time. So what I was going to say is always speaking it up for your needs is another boundary I have firmly put in place. And honestly, rarely does anyone care, especially if they care about you.
That's
What
right.
about you?
That's right. Well, and I would say just when you said the word dullard earlier, though I understand dullard that word um to be not dull, but to be almost ignorant or maybe not intelligent. And you are neither of those things, nor are you really dull. Maybe you're not. You're just vibrant between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. That
I love it. Yeah, I definitely start going downhill dramatically after 7, maybe 6.
but you're not,
Funny. Thank you.
certainly not dull.
Thank you.
Um, so I think that it's important for us to know our own limitations and our own, what, what really makes us sparkle in a day, and
Yeah.
what time is our time. So
Mm-hmm.
another example of boundaries, boundaries that have been important to me, I would say really around my, for sure, my food choice boundaries, especially when I'm in public settings and fit with family, situate in family meals, restaurants. I'm just, I learned many years ago just that nobody else is going to speak up for me. I have to do
Right.
it. And I just started doing it, and I found a way to do it with integrity and with kindness. And I'm really good at it. I'm really good at it. And I just don't take personally what any server says to me about my choices. I just keep moving
Mm-hmm.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Or what any grocery store clerk says, or anyone. I just keep moving on. And when my family, when they talk about, if we're at family gatherings, family dinners, and they'll give me a hard time about, oh, do you need to go in the car and meditate? Did you bring your special meal? Do you have to,
Mm-hmm.
do any of these special things? I just let it roll, because that's their stuff, not mine.
Yeah.
Um,
Agree.
and I look at what I've been able to achieve
Right.
in recovery. And I was just telling my husband last week, it was really cold here, I guess last week or so, and really cold, and I had to pull out my heavy duty winter jacket. And the this winter jacket is easily 10 years old, maybe 12, and it still fits like a glove. And that right there is just huge.
I
Like,
agree.
because for so many, I mean, the fact that I'm in my now, yikes, late 40s. I'm about to be in my late 40s. The end of this month, I'll be officially in my late 40s. Um, no, no bueno, right? Things don't always fit the way that they used to fit
They
when
shift.
you're in your late 40s. And to have something that does not have any give, still fit beautifully, is just a huge win. And I know it is because of the boundaries that I keep. Boundaries are the actions, and the success of the jacket still fitting 10, 12 years later is
Totally.
success.
Totally. Good job. Yeah, I agree with that. So setting boundaries is a skill set, actually. And if you are not always successful right off the bat, you'll probably end up learning a lesson or two through failure. So let's talk about what's the trick to setting and keeping boundaries. As I've mentioned, I have a hard boundary around sugar. And if I'm in a tricky situation, I may be loose in other areas if I know I'm running low on bandwidth. But I know there are just a few lines I do not cross. And I had to make sugar a non-negotiable for me. I literally can't take one bite. So I also try not to put myself in positions where I'm at risk. It's not always avoidable, but for the most part, I'm pretty wise in my surroundings. And if it helps, I write something down to be specific. And I really lean into that future self thinking and remind myself,
Yeah.
how do I want to feel in the morning? How do I want to show up in the morning? And oftentimes I'll go to bed, and if I've had a wobbly evening and like, you're going to feel so good in the morning, and I'll wake up and I'll say, oh, Paige, you do feel good. I'm so happy that I made the decisions that I made. So visualizing how that dark place makes me feel, and then visualizing how I want to feel when I wake up. What about you?
Yeah, huge. Uh, it really does. It takes setting and keeping boundaries takes commitment. It takes practice,
Yeah.
and it takes awareness that sometimes you're going to sound like a broken record. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
have to just keep saying the same phrase again
Yep.
and again and again.
Yep.
But it really helps to feel like that
Okay.
commitment to boundaries is part of my recovery work every day.
Yeah.
And it helps being in our real food recovery community, our
Mm-hmm.
online community. It helps keep the conversation alive about my non-negotiables. And
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that. I'm able to model what I do
Mm-hmm.
every day for our members. And our members, I love hearing them say, oh, I thought of what Jamie said, or what Paige said, or what Heather said, or what Shay said, and I applied it and it worked. And
Mm-hmm.
that's for me is like rocket fuel for my boundaries, because it's like, okay, the modeling that we do is helping others with their health and with their lives. Um, and I'm also very, very respectful of other people's boundaries, even if we differ.
Right.
I've learned some hard lessons back when I was deep in addiction, and really did not know. I was totally unaware. I was totally in denial, and I had a lot of work to do on myself. And it was, 2015, 16. And, someone in my life that I was the closest to me was putting huge, huge boundaries around himself, and, for good reason. And it just was so hurtful and so triggering and so overwhelming. And I just hated every single thing about it. But there was a part of me, a small voice, that knew what he was doing, he had to do. And I was the one who needed to do something differently. There was nothing was going to change about the way that he treated me. And it didn't need to. I needed to do the changing. So it allowed me to honor where he was, and allowed me to honor where I was, and start the healing process.
Nice.
It was really a bottom, so to speak. It was a bottom for me. And I had to say, okay, this is on me now. It's me or nobody.
Right.
And again, it really might feel strange at first. I might feel selfish at first. It's not. I cannot say this enough, guys. Self-care is not selfish. It is critical. We are not able to give people any part of us unless we are completely shored up and full ourselves.
Great.
Because when we give from a place of half fullness, we give from a place of resentment. We make ourselves exhausted. Other people take more than we can give, and that just turns out badly for everyone. Everyone. So again, it is vital for our emotional and mental health and recovery to remember that boundaries are critical.
Yeah.
So do you feel like the longer you enforce your personal boundaries, Paige, do you feel like it becomes more natural?
Oh my gosh. Yes, 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 yes. It was so foreign, like I said, until probably my late 50s. But after my light bulb moment, when I realized, hey, you can't treat me like that. And it was a new world of freedom. But when people treated me poorly, that was because of my lack of boundaries, and I was allowing it. So, and every time I started to feel weak or worried about someone else's needs above mine, I have this little talk with myself if necessary, and get my stinking thinking back under control. It's not easy, but it's necessary. So I will say others may not like it at first, and you may have to deal with others' feathers being ruffled a little bit, but that's not your job. So we can't fret about what someone else, if they're feeling unhappy with safety measures that you put in place. If people care about you, they will respect your boundaries, regardless of their personal feelings. And I will say, on a side note here, it does take people time to adjust and to catch up if you've changed the rules of the game. So lead with compassion with that when you are making changes. And you may not be someone's eating buddy anymore, and that's going to take some adapting for them. So when we make changes, our limbic system recognizes it as danger at first, when actually it's just something new. So we can easily calm ourselves by having that loving, comforting conversation with ourselves as we develop these new patterns, that this is not dangerous. It's just new. We're going to adapt. This is going to be better in a minute. This is going to feel better. It's the same if you get a new computer system at work, right? Nobody likes that. Nobody, even though it's going to be better later on. It just takes a minute. And the first thought is you detect danger when change comes, but really it's just new.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well said. I don't have anything to add there. Well said.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so this is, as we move forward, we want to share some great signs that we're getting stronger. And again, if any of these resonate with you, we would love to hear your thoughts around this too. So the first thing, signs that we're getting stronger, is you can say no without guilt. And this is definitely a practice. It's a skill set. And I think especially for women, I hate to say it, but saying no without guilt. What about you, Jamie?
I agree. Definitely about your comment about it's mostly an area that I know a lot of women struggle with, because we were taught societally and from a gender perspective, we were taught to care for others first, and always before us, and that is just, or it was modeled for us. Maybe we were taught
Oh,
indirectly.
sure.
It was because it was modeled for us. Also, not a sustainable life choice.
Not sustainable.
Not
Yeah.
sustainable life choice.
And it goes back into that people pleasing as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, guys, there's no harm, no foul. Like nobody's like just completely incredulous that you haven't learned this yet. Believe us, we just happened to learn it when we learned it, but we're here to pay it forward to all of you who maybe are seeing these patterns and are like, hey, wait a second, I want to do something a little differently. How do I do it?
Yeah.
That's why we're here doing this. There's no judgment. Promise.
Mhm.
If you're 78 years old and hearing this message for the first time and you're like, oh my
Totally.
gosh, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. We're happy you're here.
Yeah.
It's all good. There's no judgment that you haven't learned this yet. Just be happy that you're learning it now. When I think about again, the next sign of us getting stronger is we do what we want and what we need, not what others want us to do. So there's some really great, I have a great story about this. I was just scheduled to go with a family member to go up to see another family member at college. And the person I was going with wanted me to drive an hour out of the way to go meet them at their house and then drive all the way south to school, all the way back up to their house, and then drive all the way back to mine in a day. And I was like, when I first heard it, I'm like, that is ridiculous. That is patently ridiculous. Like, why would I do that? There's going to be a place that we can meet halfway and we'll carpool from there, or I'll just meet her down there. Like, I'll figure it out. But I was going to say something back and just offer other solutions because it's just something, wasn't right. But I didn't. I prayed about it. I talked to God about it, and God said, just wait. Like,
Yeah.
it's not times. I noticed I wasn't saying anything to her. And I feel like there was a reason I wasn't putting this boundary around my time and my, driving needs. There was a reason, but I didn't know what it was. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll trust that there's something happening here. Sure enough, like the night before the morning I was supposed to get together, I got a message from my other family member in the house with her saying, hey, when you come up tomorrow, I'll take your car and do a bunch of fixes to it that you need done while you guys are
Nice.
down visiting at school. And I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah. No
That's
problem.
why.
I can do that.
Yeah, I can do that. Like just to get all I have to pay for is the car
Yeah.
care
Mhm.
from somebody I completely trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Let me drive an hour out of my way both ways. I'll do that. And I did it. And it was wonderful, and it was pressure free, and it was something where they were able to take care of my car. And you know what? I had the best time with my family to and from the school trip because we just really had a lot of extra time together that we wouldn't have had.
Right. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Beautiful story. I love that. So another one is you do not take on the responsibility of keeping others happy, which I love. I love this one. This is similar to saying no without guilt. You have to know where your responsibility ends and others' emotions are not your job.
Right.
And maniacal to think that you have control over that.
Right.
Give them the dignity of choosing their own feelings. I love that statement.
I do too.
And the dignity of choosing their own feelings.
Yes. And having their own consequences from those feelings.
Yep.
That's also dignity is not getting in the way of that. Another sign of growth is you take things less personally. So once I realized that even if somebody says something to me that I'm deeply hurt by, that's on me because it's my life experience. It's my internal world. It's my self-talk that's getting down on what was said to me. And there is no way for me to know what another person is truly thinking, feeling, what their opinions are. I might think I know why they have those opinions. I might think I know why they do what they do, but I really don't because I've not lived their life. Once I understood that I really cannot, even if it's somebody super, super close to me, I still have not lived their life. I cannot judge their needs through my lens because I'm never going to get it right.
Right. Beautiful. I love that. Another one is you can have disagreements and maintain a relationship. This is a big one, big, big, big. For me, this isn't just a sign of boundary strength, but also maturity. Don't you think maturity?
Yes.
Being able to talk it out with someone so they feel seen, heard, and understood. And in turn, they do the same for you. Jamie and I have a guideline in place for our relationship. If we are trying to communicate via text and just get something taken care of lickety splickety, but we might end up struggling with resolution, we have decided what's best for our relationship is we stop texting and we get on the phone or Zoom to talk it out face to face, which is such a smart move if something is big on the line and not easily resolved via text where so much can be misinterpreted.
Yeah.
It was an easy solution that we both agreed on. And I will say, I respect our relationship so much and really honor how we communicate. That was a very, again, adulting, big game changer to
Yeah.
realize healthy ways of communicating.
Yeah. You have upped you and our relationship, our partnership has upped my game in the way that I communicate with everyone.
Ah,
And really, truly, because you lead with respect and you lead with love and you lead with kindness always. And that's something very rare to me. Really, unfortunately, it's the family of origin that I come from. It just, that's not the way we communicate. That's not the way that um relationships are built. It's sad but true. And so, and because my husband is the loving man, but he's not really, he's not a communicator like I am or like you are. So he's not thinking about how do we make this win-win from a communication perspective, but you do. And I really love that we're able to resolve any conflicts we have
yes.
when they come up rarely.
Yeah, rarely.
But we also are very good at working together at not resolving conflicts, but finding the next thing to do together or finding the next opportunity together or working to grow something together. There's two sides to that coin. There's a conflict resolution side, and then there's like, let's level up together side.
Yeah. Yeah, agree. Thank you.
So I would say another area of growth is you can act on your feelings when necessary. That this is, and also you can not act on your feelings when necessary. That's the only thing I have to say there.
Yeah. So another one is you don't take responsibilities for people's thoughts, emotions, or actions in recovery. There is a key phrase that I cling onto, and that is detaching with compassion. I've learned so much in that area. Your job in recovery is to keep yourself safe. It's your responsibility, and that's where it ends. So we also have an onus to be kind. Beyond that, it becomes the other person's job to do the same for themselves.
Agreed. Another area of growth, sign of growth, you can both give and receive without expectation. I'm going to add that. You can both give and receive without expectation.
Yeah.
And this is when I think about watching the news or the news media. And Paige, I think this is what you're referring to about all of the things going on in the world, right? It's a really tumultuous world we live in right now. And there is a natural curiosity for folks, and the media breeds on it or builds on it by putting a lot of sensational stuff out there.
Right.
And things that are really, I think traumatizing to take in. So I just choose not to watch the mainstream news at all. I don't read mainstream news. I just don't even go there. Like if there's anything really, really important that I need to know about, I can research it when I need to research it. And by the way, like I maybe spend like a minute or two because I just can't absorb all the stuff that's out there. It would take me away from recovery in every way. And what I do is I remind myself when I want to indulge in media, I have to remind myself that it takes me away from my service-minded approach. And aren't I in a better place to hear God's guidance and fulfill God's guidance if I'm not distracted with fear and doubt and anger and all the other negative emotions that mainstream media tries to stir in us?
Agree. Agree. The last point on this one is you are less angry and resentful. That's a sign that you are enforcing boundaries. I think when we really believe that boundaries are meant to keep us and others safe, it becomes a welcomed safety tool. In the end, everyone is happier when we function in a non-toxic way. It may be hard at first, but practice will show that being responsible always pays the greatest dividends. Also, it's a greater opportunity to operate from a place of compassion when we are taking care of our own needs first.
That's right.
For example, as women, I think we have a propensity to bend to our partner's needs to avoid conflict. But the irony is, after a period of time, we begin to build up resentment and have a big blow up over the bottled up frustration when that was what we were trying to avoid in the first place. It always makes me laugh when I think about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last point we have to cover is what you do when boundaries are overstepped, right? Meaning we've exercised a boundary and somebody breaches it, right? And how, so Paige, what are
Yeah,
your
what do
thoughts
you
there?
do then? It takes time for people to understand that there may be change. We talked about that a little bit already, and it may affect the relationship. That may happen. So be patient. You may have to re-explain what the boundary is and what you are doing. And bottom line, this is necessary to keep yourself safe. You may have to explain that to them. And you are the best version of yourself when you keep these values, and those you love are going to enjoy your company so much more. If it continues to be a problem, then you may have to make a hard decision about the relationship and decide if minimizing your exposure is a better solution. But that is not your responsibility to make sure their needs come first. You've got to put your oxygen mask on first. I do have a family member who has amnesia at every family gathering about my sugar addiction and continues to offer it to me again and again and again. I try these gentle reminders as this person is older, and it's hard and it is frustrating, but I can't separate myself from this person because I have a level of responsibility for them because they are aging, but I do keep my exposure to a minimum.
Yeah.
Also, I've had a relationship that went sour with a friend. They were acting out in a way I could not tolerate, so I had to put distance in the relationship. They told me that I hurt them because of this. I had to explain that I had to put safety measures in place so that I am no longer on the receiving end of their rants. It doesn't mean that I don't love them, care about them, or wish them the best. But when people behave in this negative manner,
Right.
you have to be willing to understand the nature of the relationship may in fact change. And forgiveness doesn't mean that boundaries won't still have to be in place. Were they happy about it? No. Did they want to go back to the way things were? Sure. Do I trust that that person has changed? No. Is it in my best interest to keep a safe distance from them and love them from afar? Yep. My daughters have had these boyfriends that they break up with them and then realize they've made a mistake and they want to get back together. And they expect my daughters just to jump right back into the relationship because the boyfriend was ready and they were in the mood to pick up where they left off. It just doesn't work that way.
That's
Just
right.
because someone else wants something, it doesn't mean you are obliged to comply.
Exactly. Exactly. And that is personal growth right there. That is personal growth right there. So I want to leave some time for listener questions. We've got a couple minutes here. What is an example of what I can say to someone who doesn't respect my boundaries? I feel so intimidated to speak up for myself and I get so flustered I can't think. So I get it. It's hard, right? It's hard. It takes practice, especially if someone's in an authority position over you, or you know, it's a relationship that's meaningful to us. But there are one-liners that we can use. And if it's around food, a great one-liner is I'm making some changes and I found it best to avoid that food or this party or that situation. Again, the best thing to do is, I find, is to, if you're really close to that person, you can have a conversation and say, hey, I'm making some changes and they're really important to me, and I would really appreciate if you didn't offer me this or push this on me. But if you're not in a place to say that to someone, right, because they're not that close to you, they're not part of the inner circle or close to the inner circle, you don't have to say a word. You can just say, no, thank you. No, thank you is a complete sentence.
I love that.
There's nothing else that needs to be said. It's not up for discussion. And then we change, we just become an artist at changing the topic of changing the topic of conversation around to something that they want to talk about, usually something in their lives they'll talk about. It is an art. It's a real quick flip. And if you do it, you'll seem like a really interesting person, because they'll be like, oh, well, they just really want to talk about me. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. Good one. Okay, the last one is, if my best friend monopolizes the conversation and never lets me talk about myself, is that a sign I need to make some changes? I mean, the answer is, what are your goals?
Right.
If it's to be a doormat for someone else's needs, then carry on and, enjoy your life. But if you're looking for a healthy 50-50 relationship, then either set some boundaries or move on. Try to have a conversation about it to start with. So
Yes.
that is what we have today about boundaries. We hope you guys have enjoyed that. If you want to know more about our online food addiction recovery program, you can find us at realfoodrecoveryforyou.com. That's the number 4, the letter U. So realfoodrecoveryforyou.com. We discuss all of these issues and more. It's not just about the food. We have foundational principles that keep us safe, and it seems to be working very well for our members. So thank you, Jamie. This was a great episode. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you. Me too. And I will see you all soon. Take care, guys.
Deal. Bye-bye.